Okay, welcome everyone to our council meeting today for Tuesday, August 24th, 2021. The time is 1:01 p.m. Welcome to our council, welcome, and staff, and our distinguished guests. And to those of you who may be tuned into us on YouTube via this recording, welcome to you also. So I'll call the meeting to order at this time, and I will ask for a moment of silent reflection so we may reflect upon our duties of today, please. Thank you. I'll ask council at this time if there's any declaration of pecuniary interest. If there's any now or at time of subject, let me know, please. Seeing no hands, thank you. Looking for an approval of the agenda for today, August 24th, 2021, approved as circulated. Motion by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor War. All in favor? And then that's carried. Thank you. I'm looking for approval of the minutes for the emergency council meeting minutes of July 22nd, the council meeting minutes of July 27th, and the public meeting minutes of July 27th. And the recommendation is that the minutes for our emergency meeting of council held on July 22nd and the regular meeting of council held July 27th, and the public meeting held on July 27th be adopted as presented and or as amended. Councillor Archer, seconded by Deputy Mayor Burt. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Is there any business arising from those minutes? Okay, seeing no hands. On to the consent agenda then. I'm looking for a motion then to receive C1, C2, reports R1 and R3 and the minutes of the Police Services Board as circulated. Councillor War, seconded by Deputy Mayor Burt. Is there any discussion or comments on any of these? Councillor Walsh, please.
Yeah, just through you, Mayor, just in regard to R3, it's really nice to know that basically at the halfway point of the year, we're in very, very good shape financially. So just wanted to extend a thank you to all the departments for making that happen.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Anyone else on that? All right. Just a comment from myself is that, yeah, I'd also like to thank staff for their hard work for bringing everything forward to us. It was very easy to read for most parts of it. Some of the stuff in the financial stuff still gets me a little mixed up, but good job, staff. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so for all these reports then, I'm going to ask, there was a motion duly seconded. All in favor then, please. And then that's been carried. Thank you. So on to delegations and presentations. I'll have Candace, if you want to give us the introductions for everyone, please, that would be great.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. With us today, we have Jean from Paradigm, Diana from Stantec, and Peter Nielsen from Peterborough County, who are here to discuss the Peterborough County Transportation Master Plan update, and specifically focusing on the off-road vehicle use on county roads, which, as everyone knows on today's meeting, has been an ongoing conversation in the township as well. I'm unsure who's going to be actually presenting the material today. Jean, is that you? Okay, wonderful. I have given you permission to share your screen if you would just like to be in control of your own presentation, or I can bring it up, whichever you prefer.
I can take it from here. That's great. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present today, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and folks listening in. My name is Jean Charche. I'm with Paradigm Transportation Solutions Limited. Our firm has been retained by the County of Peterborough to assist with the update of their transportation master plan. Joining me today are Diana Adley from Stantec, who are our partners in completing the project, and as mentioned, Peter Nielsen from the county's Public Works and Planning Department from the transportation perspective. So as mentioned, our presentation today is with regards to off-road vehicle use on county roads. What we're hoping to be able to share with you today is just to give you an update on where the study is at. I anticipate that you're probably familiar with the fact that the county is investigating this. So we thought it would be worthwhile to provide you an update of where we're at with the work that's been completed to date. Talk a little bit about where Peterborough County Council is with respect to its decision-making process around the allowance of off-road vehicles on county roads. Talk a little bit further about the different potential approaches that the county may wish to use or to pursue in addressing off-road vehicle use on county roads. And then just briefly touch on our next steps, including what we have planned from an engagement perspective going forward. So just a sort of a brief overview of the regulatory framework that affects the use of off-road vehicles and particularly their use on public roadways. And I'm sure this isn't news to you folks in terms of the way in which it's regulated, but thought it would be helpful just to sort of share where we're at from the county's perspective. So it's under the Highway Traffic Act that the use of off-road vehicles are regulated in the province of Ontario. There is a specific regulation that relates to the operation of off-road vehicles on highways. And it makes reference to sort of an overarching piece of legislation called the Off-Road Vehicles Act, which sets out a lot of the parameters around the use of off-road vehicles anywhere in the province of Ontario. So at the beginning of this year, the province made a change to the legislative framework, which in essence allowed, it used to be a regime whereby the municipality had to pass a bylaw to permit off-road vehicles to use municipal roads. But as of January 1st, the province changed the regulations so that now it is that they are allowed as of right on certain municipal roads, unless there's a bylaw passed to regulate their use. Or prohibit them in specific circumstances. However, that change in the regulation didn't affect the county. It wasn't one of the named municipalities. So I guess we're in a situation now where there's a little bit of inconsistency within the overall Peterborough County geographical area, whereby off-road vehicles are allowed to use lower tier municipal roads as of right, but they're not allowed to use county roads. Unless the county specifically passes a bylaw that permits their use on their roadways. So as part of our work, we've checked in with the various lower tier municipalities within the county and did a bit of a summary as to sort of where they're at with respect to allowing off-road vehicle use on their roadways. There's a bit of a period now where I think some municipalities are waiting for the outcome of the county study to be able to establish their own regulations locally. Some have moved ahead and have already sort of taken a position one way or the other. But as you can see in the slide, 5 of the 8 municipalities within the county either allow them on all roads, and they tend to be sort of, I think, the more northern, more eastern municipalities within the county. Cavan Monaghan has taken the position in the alternative, but I think they are waiting for the outcome of the county study to reconsider. And Douro-Dummer allows some select roadways for off-road vehicle use. The county currently has a bylaw that permits it on 11 sections of county road. Those are specific locations and don't allow them sort of as of right on all county roads. As noted, there are municipalities, including yourselves, that are in the process or do not currently have bylaws that regulate the use of off-road vehicles on their roadways. Off-road vehicles on the roadways. Now, in terms of how we've been reaching out to the broader Peterborough County community with respect to this issue, and it's important to note that although this forms part of the county's transportation master plan update, we're in essence treating this as somewhat of a separate exercise. So we have a separate engagement process that's ongoing for the purposes of ORV use on county roads, as well as we're going to be bringing forward reports on this topic independent of the overall transportation master plan update. Just given the interest in the topic and the fact that there is some current impetus to wanting to move forward a little sooner than the other aspects of the TMP update. So to date, we've had 2 rounds of consultation where we've actually reached out to stakeholders in the public. We did a notice of commencement and an initial survey to identify some specific issues and particular locations from an off-road vehicle use that thought were important to find out early on. So we did that about a year ago from now, sort of in our initial stages of consultation. And then later last year, we did a second round survey, mostly to specific stakeholders to get their input on mapping of existing and preferred desirable routes from an off-road vehicle perspective. And as part of that, we reached out to all of the lower tier municipalities within the county for their input at that time. The county also, at the Transportation Master Plan Steering Committee meeting in April, invited a series of delegations from a variety of groups to provide their input on the matter. So we had different associations, we had representatives of the OPP, had a variety of different stakeholders that offered their viewpoint on the off-road vehicle use on county roads issue, which is helping us to be able to inform where we move next. We have had a meeting with lower tier municipal staff. So back at the end of June, we met with representatives of all of the 8 municipalities to get their feedback on viewpoints from their respective communities with respect to the use of ORVs on county roads. And we've had meetings with the Hiawatha and Curve Lake First Nations to get their input as well. So I know you can certainly appreciate that there is a lot of widely held opinions about the use of ORVs on roadways. And there tends to be, for lack of a better word, sort of some diametrically opposed opinions in some cases. There are a lot of people that are highly in favor, and there's a number of people that aren't. So I'm not going to read off all of these different reasons that we've heard why people either favor or don't favor the use of ORVs on public roadways. But suffice to say, there's a lot of good points for and against. That's certainly making our task a little bit more challenging in terms of trying to balance the very different competing interests on the topic. Now, I mentioned that we've discussed with County Council a decision-making process for the purposes of bringing forward the ORV use on county roads matter to County Council for their consideration. So you can see on the slide that we've set up a 6-stage process where we sort of started off, as I mentioned, we've done some preliminary consultation and engagement with a variety of different stakeholders in the public. As well as identifying some potential approaches to dealing with the matter, which we'll talk about in just a second. We've made a couple presentations to the steering committee as well as County Council. We're now in stage 4, which is consulting with yourselves and the First Nations, and also going to the public again to get some feedback. We'll be coming forward with a recommended strategy in stage 5. And then it'll be up to the county and their partners when it comes to this issue in terms of implementing the approved strategy once it goes before County Council. Now, in terms of the potential approaches, we sort of tried to boil this down to sort of 3 simple ways in which the county could deal with the off-road vehicle use on its roadways. One is that the county could allow it on all county roadways. And the other sort of opposite to that is alternative 3, where the county makes the provision of not allowing any ORV use on its roadways. There's also a third alternative, which we've termed sort of alternative 2, that is the allowance of ORV use on select county roads. So we would identify some sort of ORV network or ORV links that would connect together various existing routes or key areas or a variety of different potential ways in which we could configure the network. And in going through this, we're looking at a variety of different considerations. So as we mentioned before, there are certain benefits, disbenefits, depending on your perspective of the use of ORVs on county roadways. So we're taking those things into consideration as we move forward in terms of assessing the alternatives. Now we are, though, also developing out alternative 2 at the same time. We're not, at this point in time, haven't made a recommendation as to any of the three alternatives, but we felt that if we were going to bring forward in the future a recommendation for alternative 2, that we should probably have given some thought to what the network's going to look like. So as I said, we're not at this point in time recommending this alternative, but we are for making sure that everybody has the best information available and making the decision what that network would look like. So in terms of developing the network or developing a potential network, we've looked at 5 different, we've gone through a 5-step process of identifying a series of evaluation criteria and factors, developing a database of all of the different road segments that are within the county's road system, in terms of a variety of different criteria like their speed limits, the availability of shoulders, their geometric design, traffic volumes, things of that nature that may affect both the efficiency and safety of operating off-road vehicles within the county's roads. We went through a scoring process, which was based on the evaluation criteria and factors, and came up with some roads that we thought may be candidates or eligible, and some roads that we didn't think were probably suitable for ORV use, and then sort of screened those with a bit of a qualitative process that we couldn't put specific numbers against, but things like, does it connect to another location? Does it connect to a specific center? Things like that we didn't assign a number to, but we thought were important considerations. And finally, we came up with a conceptual network plan, which looks like this in terms of the different sort of connections. So you can see that what we've tried to do in certain communities is connect up the existing ORV systems that may be in place, and taking into consideration what certain county roads may or may not be more suitable for ORV use, even though they may seem like a logical connection. There may be something about that roadway, whether it doesn't have sufficient shoulders or it has too high a speed of traffic, things of those nature were taken into consideration in coming up with this conceptual network. And this is what we're just sort of going out with at this point in time to get feedback on. This isn't by any means a final proposal that's going to go before County Council, but it's something that, based on the analysis that we've done to date, seems to make some sense from at least our perspective. So there are a number of issues that are still under review, as you can appreciate. And that's part of the reason why we're reaching out to the lower tier municipalities and are going to do another round of public engagement. And a lot of them extend, or a lot of them are around the extent and configuration of a network, if that was the alternative that was to proceed forward. One of the other things that keeps coming up, especially because in a lot of cases where ORVs would travel are on the roadway shoulders, is the state of the county's road shoulders. In some cases, they're non-existent. In some cases, they would need improvement. So that's certainly an important factor to take into consideration. There's also some concerns about that there isn't sort of recognized standards or guidance around signage, pavement markings, and roadside safety standards that if the county were to permit ORV use on its roadways, providing guidance to both the ORV users and the motor vehicle drivers that are on the paved surface of the road. There's also the issues around risk mitigation and insurance that the county still is grappling with, as well as restrictions and enforcement. And it's certainly something that we've heard from police representatives, is the importance of consistency, understanding, things of that nature that they would want to. And then finally, we'd have to look at the financial impacts as part of any sort of plan moving forward. So in terms of our next steps, we're in the process now of doing presentations before the lower tier municipalities. So we have a few more still to go that are going to go into September. We're in the process now of setting up for our next round of public online consultation, which will begin in early September. Then, based on everything that we've heard through both the online consultation, as well as our meetings with the lower tier municipalities and the First Nations, we'll be going back with a recommended strategy that will be presented to the Transportation Master Plan Steering Committee and ultimately County Council for approval this fall. So with that, I'd be happy, Mr. Mayor and members of council, if there are any questions. Myself, Diana, or Peter would be happy to answer them. I'll take the question and then I'll direct it to the most appropriate person if that's acceptable.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Jean. If you want to stop sharing the screen now, we'll get all our faces back. Thank you. Okay, council, questions, concerns, comments? Anyone? Go ahead. Councillor Ward, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, thank you for the presentation. I was just wondering, in terms of economic benefits, has there been a dollar value placed upon, tourism and economic benefits that would be raised in the county from having the ORV use on the roads?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, we haven't done that. That wasn't part of our scope of work. That's something that we can certainly take under advisement and discuss with the county.
Thank you.
Councillor Walsh, you had your hand up, please.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, as well. Jean, again, thank you very much for the very informative presentation. Actually, I have two questions, if I can. First one is, you mentioned that there's currently 11 roads in Peterborough County that there is permitted use. Any of those in our municipality or neighboring municipalities? I'm thinking Havelock, Belmont, Duro, Dummer, Otonabee, South Monaghan, probably.
Yeah, through the mayor, I will direct that question to Mr. Nielsen to respond. He has a good handle on the existing conditions.
Thank you, Jean. Through the chair, based on the alternative to the conceptual network plan, yes, some roads within Asphodel-Norwood, some county roads within Asphodel-Norwood are identified as candidates for ORV use, particularly County Road 45, south from Norwood, County Road 42, east and west, and a section of County Road 8, and a piece of County Road 40 as well. Based on the criteria that's been used in the assessment, those roadways would be candidates to be brought forward for ORV use. Essentially, to provide connections to adjacent communities and to connect to local municipal roads that are already approved for ORV use through the provincial regulation.
Okay, but just if I can, and maybe I wasn't clear enough, are there any, so I think you mentioned there's 11 roads that currently the county does allow ORV. Are any of those in our township?
My apologies to the chair. The road sections that are approved under the current bylaw are all within the township of Havelock, Belmont, Mattoon. Pieces of County Road 46 and pieces of County Road 48 as trail connections. Okay,
thank you. And then if I can, Mayor, through you, one last question is, you mentioned timing in the fall. Do you, and again, a challenging question to ask, looking at your crystal ball, but any idea of timing of when your final recommendation will go to County Council for a review and decision?
Through the mayor to the councillor, we're targeting probably November, December is looks like when we'll be there, but that's all going to depend on our ability to get feedback from the various stakeholders over the next month through to September. So at this point in time, that's sort of, I think, the best guess we can give you at this time, councillor. As I said, there'll be some potentially extenuating circumstances. One of the things that we have agreed to do is, as I mentioned, we're going to bring forward the ORV study independent of the overall transportation master plan report. So that it'll enable County Council to focus sort of solely on this very important issue outside of the other aspects, so that we're going to be bringing forward with the update.
Okay, thank you very much.
And Deputy Mayor Burt, you had your hand up too, please.
Yes, I did. Thank you. And through you, Mayor, thanks for the presentation. And Councillor Walsh asked one of my questions about the timing, because we've been told fall, so November, December. That's good to know. And I'm not sure who this would be directed to, but I guess from the standpoint of the safety and liability and risk and insurance, is there any talk through the province that they would be implementing some sort of training or some sort of licensing or something like that for either new drivers of ATVs as they get their license, you know, either as a first-time driver or, you know, if there's a piece of paper they need when they buy these. I was just wondering if there was any talk or any inkling through the province. I certainly realize it's not a lower tier or a county issue, but it would be a provincial issue. So I just wondered if there was any talk about that.
Thank you for the question through the mayor to the deputy mayor. Not to my knowledge at this point in time, but this is something that seems to be evolving a little bit. I think as more and more municipalities are sort of grappling with the appropriate manner in which to regulate the use of ORVs. And I think it's something that continues, like we continue to see more and more interest in the topic from municipalities that we're working with. So I don't know for sure in terms of what's there, but I would anticipate there probably will be further information forthcoming.
Thank you.
Any other questions of council at this time? Okay, I just have one comment. I do know that it was mentioned about the shoulders on the road maybe not be quite adequate. I know 45 only has a short way on there that is paved closer to Hastings. I like to tease Peter about this a lot because when the roads get redone, they mentioned to me years ago that they would be paving shoulders as they go along, as long as it's within our budget. So I'm just putting a plug out there for you, Peter, to get that work done as fast as you can, right? It's even safe for bicycles and whatever. I mean, I know Peak had having a meeting with them the other day that they talked about having bicycle tours and different things coming through the area, not necessarily our area, but all of Peterborough County, and trying to encourage more tourism through the bicycles because it seems to be the way to go, fresh air and one thing after another. So just more of a comment, not looking for an answer. So. Okay, so there's no more questions on this. Staff, did you have anything else that you wanted to add further to any of this at all? No, okay. Then at this time, I'll be asking a motion then to receive this delegation then, please. Councillor War, seconded by Deputy Mayor Burt. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, well, thank you very much. And Peter, good to see you again. And thank you very much, Jean. Hey, have a good afternoon. Okay, next on the agenda then is our staff and committee reports. So this first report would be R4. Would be Candace White, our CEO Clerk Treasurer, and we're looking for a presentation by Joanna Park. If you want to give some introductions, Candace, that'd be great, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, yes, joining us today is Joanna Park and John Hickey from Baker Tilly, who will be presenting the 2020 consolidated financial statements. We survived another round of audits through the pandemic, and we were able to complete both 2020 audits in person, and it was refreshing and so much smoother and so much less daunting to be able to complete it in that fashion. Council has had the opportunity to see the financial statements since the agenda was out on Friday, and I'm sure you had a wonderful weekend pouring yourselves over all of those numbers in that detail. No huge surprises to report to council. The township has been steadily heading towards a very strong, viable financial position in the last 5 to 7 years or so, and we continue to do that. And we're setting ourselves up for some pretty big capital projects, as we know, coming down the pipe. So don't get too excited with that reserve balance. But with that being said, I will pass that over to Joanna, who I have given you permission to share your screen.
Perfect.
Welcome, Joanna.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council, for having us here today. What I've got before you, or will in a second. Can you see that okay?
Yes, everything's good.
Okay, good. So this is a summary. I believe this was included in your package as well with the financial statements and what we refer to as our post-audit letter. This is a summary of it all. So I know you've spent the weekend, it was too hot to be outside anyway, so you were going over the financial statements. So this will be a summary of it. But as always, I'm happy to address any questions that you had for the financial statements or that letter as well. So what we start with is the auditor's report, because this is really what you've hired us to do, is to provide an auditor's report on your financial statements. So we haven't reproduced the entire auditor's report. It is 2 pages long, but what we've reproduced here is the most important paragraph, and it's the second paragraph of the auditor's report, and it's our opinion. So it says, in our opinion, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the township at December 31st, 2020, and it is in accordance with Public Sector Accounting Board standards. So a couple of things here. They are consolidated. So the numbers you see include the results of operations of the library as well as the cemetery board as well. And they are in accordance with what we refer to as PSAB, which is the accounting standards that you as a municipality have to follow. It's required to tell council what we do as part of our audit. So we review council minutes. We look at the closed and open sessions to make sure that anything that's financial relates to financial activities or anything are reflected properly in the financial statements. We do testing, we do substantive testing, we do analytical review, we look at management's estimates, make sure that we agree with them all, and it's all done on a sample basis and a risk-based approach as well. So the riskier balances we dig into a little bit more. We look at your various systems. So we look at the controls that are in place for payments going out, your regular disbursements, your payroll, money coming in, all your revenue, as well as journal entries. So any amounts that have been adjusted within your general ledger system. And anytime we have anything that we think can be, just a little stronger controls or whatever, we bring those to council as well. We don't have anything today to report on that. The audit is complete pending council's approval of the financial statements. And once that happens, then we'll ask Candace, your CAO, to sign the representation letter that she's provided us everything that we need to do the audit. And then I have here a receipt of legal letters, but we actually received both of those back already. So we are good there. As your CAO mentioned, the audit was great to be able to be done in person. Our team is definitely missing that a lot. So it was, we definitely thank Candace and her team for letting us come to the township office and to be able to do our audit there. And it goes just that much smoother for sure. So we didn't have any changes to our initial audit plan, no disagreements with management, and excellent cooperation as we've come to expect. We do have one uncorrected audit difference. Just as we went through, there were some accounts receivables that staff intend to write off in 2021 that they have been deemed uncollectible. And we just have to show it here and let council know. It doesn't affect our audit opinion. We still feel we can provide a clean auditor's opinion. It's just something that will be done in the future. So no concerns from our standpoint. It is just required to let you know that there is that one outstanding item. And then we get into the numbers. So we've broken the presentation into the different snippets or different sections of your financial statements, starting with the financial assets. So these are your assets at December 31st. Your largest asset is your cash and temporary investments, $5.8 million. Nice increase, and that's because, as your CAO mentioned, you did have a nice position at the end of the year. And so you're going to see that naturally in your cash balances. Your short-term investments remain the same, and those are GICs that you have, and they just roll each year. Your trade and other receivables, that's amounts owing to you at the end of the year. Things like your HST rebates, your water and sewer receivables, those user charges receivables as well. So nothing outstanding, nothing significant there or out of the ordinary. And then your taxes receivable. They did increase a little bit this year, but you're still significantly under that 10% ministry guidelines. The ministry has a 10% that they like to see based on your amount outstanding versus the amount you raised. In 2019, you were at 6.84%, and in 2020, you were at 8.09%. So just still just over 8%. And I think that's a little bit expected during 2020 with being the year of COVID, or the first year of COVID, I guess we should say now. And then you have your assets held for resale. That includes assets at the cemetery, the niches, as well as inventory at the community center. There was a little more on hand at the end of December 2020 than there had been in the past. The next slide just shows a graphical representation. And as you can see there, your cash being the green bar there, going up over the last 5 years. We get into your financial liabilities at December 31st, and this is where I have to apologize. We do have one correction that you will see in your final statements, and that has to do with deferred revenue for COVID. You received about $130,000 or $119,000 in COVID funding. You didn't spend it all, so you should have $81,000 deferred of COVID funding, and that unfortunately wasn't picked up until after we provided the statements to you. So I will highlight where you will see changes of that. So that starts on this page. Your accounts payable and accrued liabilities, $1.3 million, increase a little bit. You have more subdivision deposits. But other than that, this is just standard accounts payable items that related to the 2020 period that weren't paid by the end of that year. Your obligatory reserve funds, that's your parkland fees that have been collected and not spent yet, so $80,000. Your development charges, again, that you've collected but you haven't spent yet that you have for future periods, $812,000, and your gas tax unspent of $111,000. So those are amounts that can be used in for future projects. Your deferred revenue other, so this is where you're going to see the change, and it's going to increase from $15,021 and increase by $81,000. So that will include your COVID unspent funding that will be spent in 2021, as well as $15,000 that you received in the past for cannabis funding. Your long-term debt, $1.4 million. That's the OCFA loan that you received for the wastewater treatment plant. So no changes there. It's just decreased with the principal payments over the years. And then your landfill closure and post-closure liability, that's the estimated cost to close the landfill and then to monitor for the 25 years required. Of course, you're getting close to that closure date at the moment. So it is prorated based on the amount of capacity left. So it increases based on that. So just over $1 million there. And then your financial liabilities, again, just showing the graphical representation. Your long-term debt is the yellow, so you see that kind of decreasing over the years. And accounts payable, of course, fluctuates. That's the blue one. And your landfill liability is just increasing along with your deferred revenue obligatory reserve funds. That's the red, and that's just going to be variations depending on when you spend that money. This is just a snippet to show your net financial assets, which is the financial assets minus your liabilities, $2.3 million, a significant increase from the prior year. And then your non-financial assets, the only one you have and the biggest number on your statement of financial position being your tangible capital assets. So that's your assets that you have, your roads, your buildings, your vehicles, all the stuff you're going to use to provide the services to the ratepayers for more than a year. That's the historical cost of those assets minus the accumulated amortization, so the expensing over the useful life. It did decrease this year, and that's because you had more amortization, or you expense over the useful life of those assets. That was $1.5 million, and your additions were only just under $1.2 million. So that's why you'll see the decrease there. And we'll see more about those additions further on. And this is a snapshot of we're going to see the detail, but of your statement of operations, showing the total revenues less your expenses, and then the PSAB annual surplus. So that's different than your operating surplus, and we'll see that when we look at the accumulated surplus. And then showing this accumulated surplus of $33.7 million. So that's $587,000 PSAB annual surplus added to where you started the year to give you that accumulated surplus at the end of the year. And then looking at just the relationship between your accumulated surplus, which we just saw, the $33.7 million, and how much of that is made up of your capital assets. And you'll see this is I haven't seen so much variation of this in a while, and most of it is because you've got a significant amount in your reserves right now, which your CAO mentioned that you're kind of stockpiling to be able to use in the future. So there's a significant kind of variation there compared to where you were in 2016. You were the exact opposite. And then this is just a snapshot of looking at your revenues and your expenses, and then again, the PSAB surplus. So a lot of times you'll see more in your revenue than you have in your expenses, and that's because you're getting capital grants as such. Not necessarily, you'll see that a little bit in prior years, but just showing again the trend over the years. And then we look at the detail of the revenues. So in total, you had budgeted about $6.8 million in revenue. You came in at about $6.9 million. Some different variations here. Property taxation, a little over budget, and that's because you had more supplementary taxation than budgeted for. That's a hard one usually to budget for. Your user charges, $1.9 million. And this, I just noticed this morning, there was modernization funding from the province of $45,000. It was sitting in other revenue, which got put into user charges. So in your final statements, it will be in the province of Ontario money. So I apologize for that. It won't change any of your totals. It's just an allocation from here to here. But in your user charges, that's obviously there'd be a decrease because of the rec fees and things like that, but that's all your landfill fees, water fees, any kind of user charges for any of the ratepayers. Your Government of Canada, that's mostly student grants that you received during the year. In the prior year, you had some funding from the feds for water. Your Province of Ontario, that includes the Safe Restart money. So again, that's included in there is the $119,000. 81 of that will be reduced to account for the amount that will be deferred to next year to be able to use for, I think, a lot of wages and other costs related to COVID, the Safe Restart funding. Your OMPF money of $731,000, and then the OCIF funding of $171,000 is included from the province as well. You do get money, a little bit of money for fire services from other municipalities. Your penalties and interest on taxes, council did decide to give a relief to the ratepayers. So you see that decrease from budget and to prior years due to the COVID relief. Investment income decreased from prior year as expected because rates did decrease. Donations and other grants, or that should just be donations. I apologize for that. In the prior year, that included some donations from the Historical Society. And then you had other grants of $22,000. And then you had your development contributions earned and your federal gas tax money earned. So these are amounts that were actually spent during the year, mostly on transportation projects. And then looking at a graphical representation of where you're getting your revenue from, and probably no surprise that 75% are coming from either property taxation or user charges. And then looking at the expenses, again, pretty similar to budget, $6.6 million budgeted, $6.3 million actual. General government, there was an increase over budget, and that's because of the COVID-related expenses. Protection, there was a little less in your building expenses this year. So you see that under budget there. Your transportation expense services, that again, a few projects just not done that were included in the budget. Your environmental services, that includes, there was a loss on disposal of capital assets for water distribution equipment. So that is an expense that's included in that line, as well as the change in the landfill liability. So that liability that we saw in the statement of financial position of increased in the year by $60,000. So that's chosen as an expense on this statement of operations under environmental services. Your health services, that's kind of a contradictory account. I'm sure I've made the joke here. This includes your operations of your cemetery, as well as the contribution to the doctor. So that, or the physician, that's all under your health operation or health services. And no surprise when you look at the rec and cultural services line that a decrease in the actuals for 2020 versus prior year in the budget due to obviously less activity going on because of COVID. And then planning and development, $155,000. There was some kind of variances all over in that department with different things going on. And then again, looking at the pie chart of where your expenses are, transportation being 31%, environmental services, and that includes water, almost 20%, and production services, almost 20%. And then your expenses shown a different way. PSAB requires to show the expenses both ways, and this sometimes is a little more kind of easier to grasp when we see them in the type of expenses. So salaries and benefits just slightly under budget. Interest charges pretty much bang on. Your materials, again, some projects not completed, as well as the materials spent on rec facilities was less than anticipated because of non-activity. Your contracted services, that includes $60,000 change in the landfill liability. So that's why you'll see that variance there from budget to actual. External transfers, that's primarily your external transfer to the Conservation Authority. And then we see the amortization and then the net loss on disposal of capital assets. And then again, just a pie chart to show 32.6% of your expenses are in salaries and benefits, which is pretty comparable to most municipalities. And then we look at the accumulated surplus. So we had talked about that $33.7 million in accumulated surplus and the fact that you do have a significant amount that's not already invested in capital assets, which means that it's there for your using for future periods. We do subtract off the landfill closure liability, and that's because it's intended that you're going to pay for that liability as you're going to take, the expense for that liability as you pay for it. So that's why it's subtracted off there. And the cemetery has an accumulated surplus of $87,000. And then the other significant amount here then, of course, is your reserves and reserve funds of $5.4 million. This will be reduced by the amount, the $81,000 that's deferred for COVID. So taking that into account, your reserves and reserve funds balance at the end of the year will be $5,334,000, which is an increase of $840,000 from the prior year. So overall, your adjusted operating surplus in the year was $436,000, which was all transferred into reserves. So that's why you don't see a township operating surplus. Your surpluses are all included within the reserves and reserve funds. So a significant balance there. And I know the number one question I always get asked when I present statements there is, how are reserve fund balances? Do we have enough? Should we have more? And it all comes back to your asset management plan, which I know your CAO is looking at and using for future projections. So as we've seen, you haven't spent a lot in capital assets over the last few years. So, and knowing what's going on in the municipality, you will need those reserves and reserve funds for future projects. So looking at the asset management plan, the projections of how much it's going to cost and if there'll be capital grants available. So that's where you kind of have to take all that information in, look at what you have and make sure that it is adequate. And then just looking at the growth in your reserves and reserve funds, and you can see the significant increases over the years, especially in your working and general reserves. And then looking at capital assets and additions, there was about $1.1 million in additions, kind of split up into multiple categories. Your roads and culverts, $280,000. Vehicles, that's primarily the new snowplow, $265,000. Machinery and equipment, there was a lot of just kind of different things, including extrication tools, the mower, blower attachments. You did have some additions or improvements, I guess it should be, to buildings, whether it be the roof, the town hall roof, or renos to the library, certain things there. And then a little bit in land improvements. And then 148,000, in water and sewer as well. So, a little bit of everything. And then again, looking at how much you've spent in capital assets over the years versus the amortization. And it's important to look at this kind of as an overall picture and making sure that on average, you're replacing your assets at a higher rate than you're amortizing them. The asset replacements are done on the current cost, of course, and the amortization is done on historical costs. So you want to make sure that you are replacing them at a higher rate, or that's when that dreaded infrastructure deficit term comes up, when you're not doing that. And then looking at the average useful life, the green is how much useful life you have on average in the various categories, and then the red being what's already amortized. So you've got categories like your buildings at a higher remaining useful life. Now, part of that could be, it could be skewed in 2009 when your assets had to be put onto your financial statements. They were done at historical cost at that point. So any buildings you had that you had in the municipality for 50 years, 75 years, they were kind of put in a nominal value. So you have to take this chart with a grain of salt, because when you have a lower amount and then you're trying to do the law of averages and stuff, it can get skewed a little bit. And then the last chart here is just your net financial asset trend. And you can see, definitely the decrease in the growth up to 2020. And that's your financial assets minus your liabilities. So definitely a significant increase there right now as you're kind of embracing or embarking on some significant capital projects. It would be expected to kind of see it like that. And that is our presentation. Are there any questions?
Well, thank you, Joanna. If you want to, yeah, there you go. Thank you. Now we can see everyone again. It's so much easier when you read it off to us and give some explanation than just trying to read it ourselves and get a little confused as we go, or at least that happens with me anyway. So any questions from council at this time of our auditor? Deputy Mayor Burt, please.
Good, thank you, and through you, Mayor. Thank you very much for the presentation. Not really any questions, just comments. I guess it goes without saying, thanks to the staff for all the hard work to put us in the financial position we're in. It's been, a number of years coming and really getting into this strong financial position. The long-term debt's decreasing, the reserves are in a healthy shape because we know those reserves are going to be dropping as we move forward. So it's nice to see that that pie chart in a good shape right now, because that's not going to last, and certainly the net financial assets is part of that. I guess I have a question. This may not be for you, Joanna. It could be for staff. So as far as the landfill liability goes, 2021 is the expected date when that closure will happen. I guess this is more from a practical point of view. When we get that notice that says that's it, is there a time frame? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 2 months? Is it 6 months from when they say it closes, that it closes? So like I say, that's not really a financial question, but that's a big number that hangs over our head. So I just kind of wondered what the process was for that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I can answer that. So it will not be closed in 2021. What has been started is the landfill closure plan. So that plan is going to dictate and lay out everything, our responsibilities, timeframes, timing, etc. Changing in staff has put that on a slower completion date than originally expected. So the landfill closure plan will be presented to council in 2022, and it'll lay it out. Now, it's important to remember that that $1 million liability is for the cost of monitoring that over the life of that. So it's not like as soon as we close it, we have to spend $1 million. That is the cost of monitoring it and the upkeep, whether that's additional wells, sampling costs, consulting fees. The ministry can come in at any point in time during any of our annual inspections, as we've seen in the past with our Asphodel closed landfill, and say, you know what, we want to see some additional work based on results. So it's a best guess for the 25-year monitoring period. But 2022, all of the questions that have been lingering for the last 2 or 3 years in regard to the landfill closure will be addressed in that plan that the consultant will prepare on our behalf in conjunction with staff and present it to council for your adoption.
Okay, that's great. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or concerns from council at this time on this? Councillor Ward, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank you for that excellent presentation. I like the mayor, like the charts, and it was really easy to follow. And I just wanted to thank you for that. I did have some questions before that I did ask Candace, and I thank you for that presentation. Thank you.
Okay, so that's good. So we do listen when our auditors do speak and say save money. We save money. I say this every year, but staff has done an excellent job of keeping us with our head above the water, and the life jacket's on the dock now, I would say. So we're doing all right, I guess. So anyways, so if there's no more questions from council, then I'm going to ask for a motion then to approve the 2020 statement as presented and to further authorize myself, the mayor, and the CAO clerk treasurer to sign the acknowledgement of council for this report. Please. Motioned by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor Archer. All in favor? And that's carried. And John, you didn't get to say too much today, but thank you for your time and your effort too, please, sir. Thanks.
He's here to answer the hard questions. We got him off easy.
No, it's all good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we have about 4 minutes left before we actually get into a public meeting. I didn't know, I guess, Peter, I just want to say welcome to you welcome to our team in Asphodel-Norwood. Maybe not everybody knows you, but this is Peter Deshane, and he is our Manager of Public Works and Environmental Services. So once again, welcome to the team, Peter. We're really looking forward to some of your reports and some of your wisdom that you're going to pass on to us. But I don't know if we can do yours in 4 minutes here. So I was just trying to delay the time before we do our public meeting. So anything you'd like to say ahead of time, Peter? You're muted, sir. Down to the bottom left on your camera there. See, you're just new to this.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to council. Thank you, council, for having me here and giving me this opportunity. I'm delighted to be here and excited for this this endeavor and this opportunity, and very humbled to be part of the team, and looking forward to the future endeavors that we have here.
Excellent. There's been one question, Peter, I wanted to ask you is when do we get to tour with you all day as council sometime? I just want to know.
Just give me a call and we can hop in the truck and go for a drive.
No. I was just giving you.
We regret that statement.
Yeah.
I was poking the bear there. That was all. I knew from your past experiences, you've gone through some of that before. So I just giving you a hard time, and I'm just trying to waste another minute here while we're on YouTube being recorded, so anyway, Candace, what's your suggestion? We just take a slight recess for 1.5 minutes before it hits 2 o'clock?
That would be my suggestion. Yes, we can go quiet for a couple of minutes.
All right, I'll hit mute.
We need a motion to suspend.
There you go. Deputy Mayor Burt, Councillor Walsh, all in favor? So we suspend at 1:58. Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, I'll invite council to come back online there if you can. And staff, of course. Okay, thank you. So we'll need a motion then to reconvene in regular council for today, August 24th. Motioned by Councillor Archer, seconded by Councillor War. All in favor? Okay, we're back in regular council at 2 o'clock, and now I'm going to ask for a motion then to suspend our council meeting to go into a public meeting for August 24th, 2021. So I'm looking for that motion then, please. Deputy Mayor Burt, seconded by Councillor Archer. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, well, welcome then. It's our public meeting. We have an agenda today. This is Tuesday, August the 24th, and it is 2 p.m. Welcome to all of you who are here, council as well as staff, and welcome to those of you who may be tuned in via YouTube that's being recorded at this time. I'm going to ask council at this time if there's any declaration of pecuniary interest at this time for this subject. Seeing no hands, then thank you. And the notification then, I'll have someone read that out for me, I guess, please. Anyone, Ed or Candace, notification is what we do?
I can read it, Mayor. Sorry about that. Notification of complete application and notice of public meeting concerning the proposed zoning bylaw amendment was provided in accordance with the Planning Act RS 0990 by first class mail to property owners within 120 meters of the subject property. Notification was also sent electronically to all applicable agencies and posted on the Township of Asphodel-Norwood website for the general public. Notification was also posted on the property. Mayor, I'm just going to continue on to read the other legal paragraphs, if that makes sense at this time and fair with you.
It does, please. Thank you.
Thank you. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Asphodel-Norwood before the bylaws pass, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Asphodel-Norwood before the bylaws pass, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. Back to you, Mayor.
Thank you. So we're on to then reports. Would be R1 would be Ed Whitmore, our Chief Building Official Planner Coordinator. And this is regarding zoning bylaw amendment ZUBLA 06-2021. Mr. Whitmore, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so here's a little bit of the background for discussion purposes or for questions. The application for consent B-26-21 that was submitted to the County of Peterborough Land Division by Kathy Stockdale. And the purpose of that application was to create a lot addition to an agricultural lot. So they had two farms and they wanted to make one farm larger. So they decided to cut one of the farms in half and add that to one of their existing farms. And then the retained portion of lands would end up being about 990 feet of frontage and about 20 acres in area. So it's still a very nice farm parcel of property. So Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood recommended to the county back in April 13th of 2021 to approve that severance. And so since then it was approved, but it's subject to rezoning the retained parcel to the satisfaction of the township. The township will require the property to be rezoned to just recognize the lot area of the rural piece of land because it's undersized at being 28 acres. So the zoning bylaw amendment application ZBLA-06-2021 is applicable to lands described as 2449 Asphodel 4th line with that municipal roll number and concession 4, part lot 19 in the township of Asphodel-Norwood. For the engagement part of this, we, as Candace mentioned, that the notice of application, complete application, and also a notice of the public meeting was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act and to all the required agencies and the neighboring properties within 120 meters of the subject site. The township also circulated Duro Dummer because they're within 1 kilometer of the property boundary. And I'll note that Duro Dummer hasn't provided any comments or objections to the zoning bylaw amendment. A combined notice of the complete application and the notice of the public meeting was posted on the township website and posted on the subject site. And I know this is a repeat, but this is just how it goes. We had a owner from across the road phone in and speak to me personally. He wanted to know how the zoning bylaw amendment would affect him, and he was advised that the property is zoned rural today and it's going to be zoned rural exception in the future, and that all it is recognizing the reduced lot area, and no development is proposed at this time, and no buildings or any construction is being proposed whatsoever. It's just going to still remain the rural zone. So there's going to be no effect on his property. And so then he advised that he had no concerns whatsoever. And I advised him that I'd be bringing this to council to let you know that he called in and that he didn't have any concerns at the end of our conversation. In my report, I had said that no other comments were received at time of writing the application or the council report here August 16th from any agencies or property owners. But since then, I've had Orca comments come in, and they have said there's no concerns, and they've done a thorough review of the application. And then today I also had a Enbridge Gas comments received, and again they don't have any objections to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. And that's all the comments that I have with regarding the engagement. And then so for down further in the report, the conclusion, the zoning bylaw amendment appears to conform to the growth plan, the Greater Golden Horseshoe policies, the county official plan policies, and the township official plan policies. The zoning amendment, if it's passed today, is subject to a 20-day appeal period, and if no appeals are received by September 15th of 2021, this zoning bylaw amendment will be final and binding on the properties. So I should note also that a merger agreement will be coming to council to merge the severed parcel to that existing farm, the neighboring abutting farm, in the future, probably within the next month or so. We attached the notice of complete application and the notice of public meeting, and also the zoning bylaw amendment application. And we do the notice of complete application and notice of public meeting. You could do those individually, or you could just combine them, and we always choose to just do a combined notice of both those complete application and notice of a public meeting, just because we're allowed to do that and it makes sense to do it. So that's it for the report, unless there's some questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Any questions from council at this time on this report? Okay, seeing no questions then. So the meeting of record then, Candace, is there anyone that's in the back wings there wanting to speak or not speak towards this?
No, Mayor, there's no meeting record, written
So
or
then
verbal.
I've invited
Yeah.
comments for both support and opposition, first, second, and third time, and there's none, so that's good then. So, okay, so if there's no questions on this, then the recommendation before us is that the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts this report regarding Zubla 06-2021 Stockdale, and further that the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood directs staff to prepare a bylaw that will rezone the severed lands to the rural exception 10 RU-10 zone. Motioned by Deputy Mayor Burt, seconded by Councillor War. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And now for the adjournment is that the public meeting held on August 24th, 2021 be adjourned at 2:10 p.m. and the regular meeting of council be resumed. Oh, Ed, you had your hand up?
Yes, I just would like to have one sentence mentioned here that if a person wishes to be notified of this decision for any purpose, the person must make a written request to the Township of Asphodel-Norwood.
Yeah, thanks.
Just so that everybody knows that if anybody's out there watching.
Yeah,
that
Candace did read that earlier, but that's good to know.
okay.
Thank you. All right, so 211 now for the motion, please. Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor Archer. All in favor? And then that's carried. Okay, thank you. So now we're back into our regular council. And once again, now then we're on to the report for staff and committee reports would be R5, the introduction of Peter Deshane, and he is our Manager of Public Works and Environmental Services. And this report is regarding our 2021 capital projects status update. And Peter, you're muted right now, but welcome to the team and the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, once again, just I want to thank council and everyone for having me here today and giving me this opportunity. It's my pleasure, and I'm very humbled to be part of the staff here now. So I'll get on with my report. This report is to provide an update on our capital projects and our capital equipment for 2021. I will start off with the transfer station bridge. So Drain Brothers have been in there over the last couple of weeks, kind of prepping the site and getting it ready. They were ready to go on Monday. Sorry, I got to get through my report here. So Monday, August 19th, the site was ready to go and the transfer station was closed. We aggressively advertised the closure. Everything went really well. The bridge arrived on Thursday and was installed with no hiccups. And the transfer station was opened on Friday evening and ready for business Saturday morning. So we never had any issues or complaints from ratepayers during the closure. Just the financial impacts, slightly over budget from the estimate, and that would be funded from the capital construction reserve. On to Centerline Road, that project is well underway. I don't know if anyone's been out that way, but they paved the first 4 kilometers beginning at County Road 45 Thursday and Friday, made it to the 6th line. I think it looks really good. The ride is nice and it's turning out very well. Just on that, the intent of the contract was to surface treat Centerline Road with a double layer. Drain Brothers presented a new material to us that is basically asphalt, but it's a thinner layer of asphalt, and it's similar or can be categorized as surface treatment, but the life cycle is expected to be much longer. So we did some research and review and felt that was the best product, and the impact to the budget was not significant. Actually ended up in a net savings. So we opted to go with that, and I think it was the right choice. The project is looking really, really nice out there, and it's going very well. So just to kind of summarize, they are on schedule, and we are looking to be within budget. Just to note, also the intent of the contract was to hydroseed all the disturbed areas and ditching throughout the length of the project. The engineer miscalculated the quantity required to do that. So they made it through beginning at the 3rd line, I think, to approximately the 6th line, only on the south side. And then we're at the limit of the quantity that was in the contract. So our recommendation is to forego the hydroseeding any further and redirect those funds or reallocate those funds once the project's complete and we understand fully where we're at in terms of budget. And having said that, once we get to that point, we will prepare and provide a report to council where those numbers are coming in at. Also, I should note too, to mitigate any erosion or sedimentation issues, because we're not hydroseeding the ditches anymore, we're also recommending that we'll riprap and filter cloth the ditches, and that'll be completed with township forces, and we can do that for approximately $5,000 in material. And we would do that once Drain Brothers are complete and off-site. Moving on to the town hall accessible ramp upgrades. The ramp was completed towards the beginning of or end of July, beginning of August. Flagpole was installed on August the 10th. Sidewalks were all removed and updated, looking very nice. And we were or are currently waiting on railings. But I did just get word actually during this council meeting that the railings were installed today. So I'll be going to investigate that after the meeting and see how that turned out. So that's good news. Now that that's all complete, we can coordinate the remainder of the landscaping, installation of the bench and plaque in honor of, the garden in honor of Gail Sawyer, and the bench in honor of Randy Berryhill. On to the Norwood Library. It's been a bit of struggle organizing some aspects of this project. COVID has certainly had some impact on some of the work that we're getting done there, but we are endeavoring to get it completed here. So the contractor has been in, closed the entranceway there between the two buildings and installed the concrete recently this week. We're waiting on the shelter, the covered shelter structure there, which we are expecting within the next couple of weeks. We do have the benches and picnic tables and chairs here at the shop, which we'll install as soon as the contractor is done with the landscaping. And soffit and fascia updates are expected to be completed the week of the 26th, and then painting will follow. So with any luck, we'll have everything kind of wrapped up by mid-September. But we are working very diligently with everyone to get the work done. But it's been a struggle because of COVID for supply of materials and so on and so forth. The offsite sanitary sewer project on Victoria Street. We have received the hydrogeological report from GHD, which we are currently reviewing. We are working with the consulting engineers and GHD to determine next steps and how we want to move forward on that project. The Sand Road Bridge guide rails, we were geared up to have those installed this week in conjunction with the guide rails at the transfer station bridge. But an inspection revealed that some of the shoulders are eroding out there, so we decided to forego the installation on Friday, and we'll have to do a little bit of repair work out there on the shoulders. And but our expectation or hope is that we'll still get those done this year, and we will keep you posted on that. Surface treatment that we have in our 2021 budget for surface treatment, we have Birdsall Line 2.85 kilometers from County Road 2 to the south end, and Duro-Dummer Asphodel-Norwood Boundary Road 5.5 kilometers from Cameron Line to the fifth line. A single layer of surface treatment was proposed for this year. We are gearing up to do that. It is expected that the contractor will be here sort of mid to late September to do that work. And in the meantime, we'll, in conjunction with OSM and Duro Dummer, we'll get the roads prepped and ready for the surface treatment. Okay, on to some equipment. Our excavator, as you all know, was awarded to Bob Mark New Holland. And I was in touch with them, and we're hopeful that we'll receive that by the end of September. The water tank, replacing our current plastic tank that we have here, is currently being installed in the truck the old water tank was in, and we're hopeful that that will be completed this week and we'll have it back next week. So I guess that brings me kind of to the end. Does anyone have any questions?
Hey, thanks, Peter. That was pretty much a good news report all around. Candace, you had your hand up there for a second.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in on a couple of things here, if that's before council asks their questions, if that's okay.
Please.
Thank you very much, Peter. Well done on delivering your first council report. It's always nerve-wracking to deliver your very first one. So well done. I just want to touch base on a couple of items. So the township accessibility ramp. So out front here at the town hall, Peter did mention the memoriams that are going to take place in the front of the property. The Randy Berryhill Memoriam is going to take place due to donations received, and that committee that started in regards to wanting to put something in the village from him. So that will not be funded with township funds. I just wanted to clarify that. Gail's Garden, as far as that'll be a replacement of the concrete center flower bed that is out there. Township staff will be moving forward and putting that in. That will be a municipal responsibility. As far as touching base in regards to the offsite sanitary main replacement project, Peter so eloquently gave you a little snippet there, but I'll revisit it and say a little bit more of the tougher stuff. So when it comes to this project, I think it's very important for township staff and council to be putting out the message that asking us if the road is going to open this week or next week is not the question that should be being asked. Unfortunately, we are probably looking at that road closure is going to be extended. If that road is opened for November, Peter and I are going to be doing a happy dance. So we need to adjust our expectations. And originally, obviously, when we headed down this road, that is not the expectation that any of us had, obviously. But the road, I think we just need to adjust our expectations. There's no point in asking us every week if the road's going to open. The road isn't going to open. Unfortunately, the road is going to remain closed potentially until November. You will see some activity on that site around the 31st, and then you're going to see some continual activity. So you're going to see some similar work that's been completed to date with some well work. You're going to see that having to take place in order to continuously address the large volume of water and to get it to a point. We are almost there. We're almost to a point where we can put an excavator on site, but we probably need another 3 to 4 weeks before we're able to do that. Once they start excavating, due to the sheer volume of water and the amount of trench boxing that they have to do in very small sections, it's going to be slow going when they start. I think once it starts, which you're going to see, fingers crossed, in about 3 to 4 weeks, once it starts, I think that'll assist with the public understanding that there is a lot of work being done behind the scenes in order to get this project moving. That infrastructure has been in the ground for 50 years. We're going to address it. I think it's the location. We've ran into this in the past as far as a project not moving forward as smoothly as originally intended due to engineering, supply of product, whatever it may be. It's a sheer location. It's in the downtown of the village. It's high traffic area. It's well exposed, which means it's going to be getting a fair bit of attention. And I wholeheartedly understand and sympathize with I guess, the disruption to everyone in the area, and I get it, but hopefully when we need to get it right. So if it takes an extra month or two to get it done and get it done right, we don't need to deal with it for another 50, 60 years. It's our responsibility to ensure that that's done. So that'll be the message that township staff is putting out. It will be going out on the township website, that it will be a delayed and extended closure. And hopefully at that point in time, we won't have to be answering that question every single day. We will have educated the public. Although it's unfortunate and we sympathize, it is unfortunately the reality. But at the end of the day, this time next year, it'll be foregone in the past, and the road will be open, it'll be paved, it'll be beautiful. And, you know, I warned council that 2021 was going to be the year of destruction. We basically ripped the township apart from one end to the other, but we are slowly putting those bricks back together. And the end result, when we head into 2022, is it's going to be a beautiful addition to the township. Although most of it's going to be under the ground, trust me, it's going to be a good thing. You're going to be very, very happy to see it. I would like to circle back around to the hydro seeding on Centerline Road. Hindsight is always a wonderful thing. I think originally, if we would have known, obviously, that quantity was so grossly underestimated, we wouldn't have bothered with hydro seeding any of it. Let's be honest, we're not going to water it. It's dry, it's hot, it's going to die. So some of it'll take. Our biggest concern is erosion in the ditches that are deep. And that is where the filter cloth and the riprap are going to come into play to ensure that we don't lose those ditches and that erosion and something is able to grab a hold and take place. Obviously, over the course of the next couple of years, natural vegetation is going to take over, and it's going to start growing, and we'll be back to roadside mowing there before we know it. So that's kind of the stance that township staff took. $26,000 to continue to get them to hydro seed the rest of the road, to probably lose the majority of it because it is grass seed, and we're not going to be able to probably water as much as it needs to be able to get a long lasting product out there. So let's rip wrap the ditches, try to save what we can, and let natural vegetation next year and the year after slowly take over and do the job that it needs to do for about $5,000. So we're able to maintain our budget that way. And that's it. That's my 2 cents, and I'll pass it on to council for your questions.
You see, Peter, you see how she did that? She come up with all that bad news and she made us laugh while she was doing it too. So not too bad. Any questions? I thought I seen Deputy Mayor Burt's hand. Yes.
Yeah, excuse me. Thank you, through you, Mayor. And yes, welcome, Peter. Did a great job on your first presentation, and no need to be nervous around us. We're a pretty calm bunch. So anyway, actually, Candace had answered, clarified just a couple questions I had. And yeah, I agree with the riprap versus the hydro seeding. You might not be too bad on the center line with rain, because there has been some rain center line south versus north. So what is there may have taken, but and then yeah, certainly just I've had a few concerns from residents about the sanitary main works, and not really no main concerns, just wondering, the lack of activity was really it, and basically, it's the dewatering, and we're waiting for studies to be done. So anybody I've spoken with are very understanding. And just getting back to the center line, I did have to drive the center line a couple times this weekend. And it's kind of mind-blowing after driving that for decades as a gravel road, and it's just so different. So yeah, I did make the comment to Candace, I'm sure we'll have to have the OPP along there once it's done, because oh my goodness, you can with that smooth road, the speeds can creep up. So I think fair warning to everyone that keep the speeds down. But it is lovely. They've done great work. And I don't really have any other questions other than, Peter, you really came in at a busy time, and nothing like diving right in. So thank you for that report.
Just for your information, at the Police Services Board meeting, we did discuss Centerline Road and possibly the OPP monitoring it once it's done. So that's high on the priority list. Councillor Walsh, you had your hand up, please.
Yeah,
All right,
through you, Mayor,
fine.
if you can. First of all, yeah, definitely welcome on board. Excellent first report, and yeah, busy time coming on board, but you might as well jump right in with both feet and get started. So I just had a couple things. First of all, the transfer station bridge, if we can call a bridge beautiful, thank you for setting the picture. Again, it's just, congrats to the staff. We thought outside the box of being able to bring in a bridge all ready to go. Basically minimal disruption to our township residents. So awesome job, well done. Second point, if I can, town hall, that's great news on the railing. And I guess the last kind of piece of that puzzle, Candace, you may have to be able to update flooring. When I know COVID plays a role, it's a big floor to redo. Do we have any sense kind of when that may happen?
I do. So I was going to give you an update. I just got a text message actually from the flooring company. The flooring is in. So that is great news. So we are now able to be scheduled to have the floor replaced. So we're looking at probably the 4th week of September. Before it's a large job for them they weren't bothering putting us in the schedule until all product was received. So now that it's received, we can be scheduled. So that being said, now that the railings are on, and today's been a lot of action for the town hall. So now that the railings are on, and we just got a text message during this council meeting that the flooring is in, and that we've been scheduled, I'll be able to coordinate with the food bank. Obviously, there's going to have to be some changes there to their operations to be able to take a look at hosting other groups in there. Because as of right now, obviously they remain set up on a continuous basis. That being said, their preferred approach has been to not allow the public in. They've been doing all of the shopping, so the setup that is there right now is conducive to that approach. So there's going to have to be some changes there before we see some other user groups in there. But I don't see any reason, once the food bank has kind of packed everything up and put everything away, why we're not able to see some usage in the town hall based on capacities, based on pandemic provisions, based on safety plans before we rip up the floor. And then of course, during that week to 2 week time frame where there's no floor and the flooring companies in there working, obviously no rental or usage will be able to take place during that time. And then obviously by Thanksgiving, we should all be wrapped up and good to go and moving forward. And hopefully the pandemic is still being kind and we're able to utilize this great facility that we've just spent all this time and energy on this year. So.
Awesome, thank you. Again, through you, Mayor, just 2 more small questions or clarities. With regard to Centerline and the consultant kind of being off, and again, I'm new to all this, so with the consulting really do we have any recourse there, or just that's the way it is?
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's good. And
I mean, Peter,
I think
you can
lastly,
answer if you'd like, but there's really not much we can do. I mean, it's our job to mitigate. Obviously, it would be great to be able to go back on them and be able to say, I want you to pay for hydroseeding the rest of the road. That would be obviously from a township perspective. That would be ideal. That is not reality. Where it sits is it's up to us to mitigate the budget. Do we want it's the error, and ultimately township staff reviewed the contract. We didn't prepare the number, we didn't enter the number, but we didn't catch it as being as an error to say that it was grossly underestimated. So essentially they could come back and say that, well, township didn't catch it either. So bottom line is mitigating the financial impact and determining what's the best course moving forward. And I think we've done that financially, a $5,000 effort versus a $26,000 effort for something that'll be able to do the job we need it to do.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And then really the last quick comment is just in regard to the offsite sanitary main. Thank you very much for the update on that. Yeah, there's been the odd question about it, but you know what? Let's just do it right once. And if it means a little bit longer, as possibly painful as that may be for a few people, absolutely the right decision. And let's just do it right and be done it.
Agreed. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Any other questions on council? Okay, I have a couple comments then, basically. So Candace, just from you, when a budget is put out for us like that on the center line road, say, and sometimes projects go over budget, where's the dollar figure for going over budget compared to, just for the public's knowledge, where's the dollar figure stop at for council and staff to be comfortable with for going over budget on something like that?
Okay, so I'll give you an example. I think I know where you're coming from. So the transfer station bridge, Peter reiterated it again today in his report, but I brought that same kind of snippet of the financial to a previous council meeting, and I'd asked council that if we could allocate the $8,800, I think it is approximately, out of the reserve. That being said, the operational financial position of that department will be looked at the end of the year. And if we can absorb that $8,800 overage under the revenue brought in by the transfer station and not pull from reserve, we won't. But our first recourse is to always pull from reserves, which is why, since we're heading into such large projects and the capital projects are getting so much larger because our infrastructure was dated for decades and nothing was replaced, it's all coming to a head, right? So that's what reserves are for. So any overage would come to council in a final financial report with a recommendation to pull from reserves. That being said, if we haven't brought something forward to you prior to now for, say, Centerline Road, then you know that the project is running. It's an estimate, right? So we're running in a variance that staff is comfortable with. So you'll get a financial at the end of the project. If you come forward a staff report that says, we need, this has come about. So when you dig into the ground, there's always surprises. Something has come about that we didn't plan for. Then you'll see an interim kind of staff report asking council's permission to withdraw from a reserve. I don't know if that really answers your question, because I'm not sure 100% what you're asking, but.
No, that was, you know me pretty well. That was about it.
Okay.
No problem. Anyways, okay, well, just to close out then, basically, Peter, once again, welcome to the team. And we've always been of the opinion that if you keep someone busy, they'll always be happy. And we want to keep you busy and happy. So thank you. And we appreciate your time and your effort, and get out there and inspect those railings, I guess, say. Anyways, okay, so this R5 capital project status update, I'm looking for a motion then to receive for information. Councillor War, seconded by Deputy Mayor Burt. All in favor? And then that's carried. Thank you. All right, Peter, if you want to hang around, help yourself. If not, we'll see you later, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to our 6 on our agenda then, and this is Candace White, our CAO Clerk Treasurer, and this is regarding our community center and facilities opening procedures. And I see that we have Seamus McDougall on the line too here. So welcome, Seamus.
Through the mayor, thank you. Okay, I'll begin. Again, I'm excited for this opportunity. Thank you for giving me this chance and believing in me. Norwood's always had a special part in my heart, and I'm honored again to be back here working within this township and seeing how far it's going to go, and how much within my time here that center line. Again, I drive that road every day growing up, and I'm glad now it's no potholes. The library expansion, the railings, stuff here reopening, which is good to see. So hopefully, again, COVID cooperates. So again, this is my first report, so bear with me. So facilities and parks, once a month, I've been doing the inspections. They've been kept up to date. I sent out an email before today, just before this meeting. Craig Jones from Peterborough, we updated our AEDs in the town hall and the community center, so they're a lot more user-friendly. There's even a button he showed as if it's for a child, you push child, whereas before you kind of had to, it was a little confusing that there was only 2 pads, and for the child, one had to go on the front, one had to go on the back. So that's good to know that those two are up to date. So those are inspected once per month, just to make sure that everything's still functioning in it. Ground maintenance, so township staff, we've been maintaining over 40 locations. Obviously, this summer has been a different one, where typically by now everything's burnt off, but because we got rain so late, it's still greening up until about a week ago, where things have kind of started slowing down with the heat, where the grass maybe doesn't need to be cut every week because obviously it's not growing at that rate. Ball fields, so starting early July, the JJ Stewart ball field is used 4, if not 5 times per week. So minor ball, they use it 4, if not 5. Typically at the beginning, they started with 5, and then once games started, where they tend to just use Monday to Thursday. So it's good to see the use there, and it's good to see minor ball starting back up, as well as our other rental is adult ball. It's Tuesdays and Thursday nights. And typically in the past, it's just been Thursdays, but due to COVID, they're doing Tuesday, Thursdays, so that they don't have to use the high school diamond. It's just all, and they can also spread out, so you don't have 8 teams at the ballpark at once. So there's less numbers. So minor ball, the Mites are finishing their last home games this Wednesday. So they were a travel team. The midgets are done now. They were a travel team. And then we had T-ball as well. They're done as of last week. And that was just all local kids. And that was just Tuesdays, Thursdays. Whereas the Mites and the midgets had travel. So they had teams coming here as well as they went places. Hanging baskets, they were installed again this summer. They're maintained twice a week. We've reminded our staff during the hotter portions to make sure we're overwatering them or making sure they're not dying off, as well as maintaining the upkeep of them. So if you see some deadheaded needed to be done, we've been doing that. So we did receive one inquiry, but just making sure that we haven't forgotten, which they haven't, but the bridge on Elma, that's blocked off, but just making sure that those flowers are still watered, which we have been doing that. Millennium Room, for the most part, nothing's really been happening, but now stuff's starting to come. So within my second week, July 12th to the 14th, Peterborough Public Health had a vaccination clinic. It was both walk-in and appointments. So it was walk-in for first dose, appointment for second dose. But by Wednesday, it was pretty much walk-in because I think they were struggling with appointments. The biggest take back from it was the amount of people that were concerned that with mixing. So because Moderna was pretty much the only vaccine being offered and they had AstraZeneca or Pfizer before, they were concerned about mixing. So that would have been the biggest takeaway for public health there. The Lions Club has had 3 meetings since things have started to open up. Federal election, now that it's announced, they've booked 4 days for the advanced polls as well as 1 day for the ordinary poll, as well as the Agricultural Society has started booking for September their monthly meetings. So it's good to see that facility being able to be rented again. Moving over to parks now. So all park areas, boat launches, flower beds, trees, grounds, and equipments have been maintained throughout this pandemic. They're monitored every week by our staff who's cutting them, as well as myself, who do monthly inspections, as well as we have 5 Blue-Loos located in parks, and they're disinfected every day. So when our staff disinfect those, they're taking a quick peek around the park to make sure there's no garbage laying down or no trees down or no equipment needing repairing. The walking Mill Pond forest trails, they've been used this year from mid-July to end of September by a Peterborough group. They use it as it's a Peterborough Child and Family Center program. They use it about 9:30 to 12 every Thursday. They come and do various activities throughout the trails. Tuesday nights here at the community center, the park's been used for a yoga class, as well as 2 nights. The figure skating club has used it as an outdoor meeting because obviously outdoor it's a lot safer than trying to coop up indoors. Trish Reed, the new CEO librarian, she just completed this week her fourth of 5 story times. So they are using one park per week. So they started here at the community center. They've been to Asphodel Park. They've been to Norwood Park. I believe this week was the Mill Pond Butterfly Garden, and next week they're wrapping up at the Westwood Park. So from talking to her, I know her second one at Asphodel Park, she had a pretty good turnout. There were 6 local families. So with this being new, she kind of didn't know what to expect. So I'd say with the heat that was that day, having 6 families is a pretty good start. And again, it's nice too for those families that you're not having 25 or 30. Well, then you're worrying about too many people in the park or people being too close. The next thing, so new this summer, the Boys and Girls Club of Kawarthas have operated a camp here at the community center. So they have 2 more weeks after this week. So they started right from July 5th and are finishing on September 3rd. To date, so including this week to date, they've had 230 kids come through it. I know of those 230, some kids have came for multiple weeks, but everything's been going well. I know now with the nicer weather, they can use a lot of the outdoor activities. So they use the splash pad pretty much every day. They have access to the playground, the basketball court. They're doing activities outside. So it's nice that with the weather cooperating that they can be doing that versus having to come inside in the event that it's super hot or raining. So on that too, typically now since the plant's been turned on, we're allowing them access to the Millennium Room versus before when the plant wasn't on, their indoor access was the ice surface. So lastly, the ice plant, so it was turned on Wednesday, August 18th. The guys were here this morning to paint it. So it has been painted. We're hoping that early September, but we're hoping in a perfect world, September 1st is when we're hoping to have rentals. Obviously, if we are before that, great. If we're after that, we can also accommodate them. I touched in the report, but new this year, to touch on minor hockey, due to the pandemic, everything's been moved from spring to fall. So whereas before in typical years, Norwood would have started very early September, but now they can't start till the week of the September 20th. So again, thanks to the pandemic, that everything. So after Labor Day, AAA starts, they go for a week, then AA starts, they go for a week, and then single A in your rural center, so Norwood can start. So that's why they can't start before September 20th, because OHF and OMHA have made that ruling that all hockey is moved to the fall. Our staff foresees that I think this is here to stay. I don't think they're going to go, oh, next year we're going back to spring tryouts. I think moving forward, I know when I grew up, that's how it was. There were no spring tryouts. So I foresee, again, that moving forward from here on out, no hockey will start before Labor Day, with the Norwood teams and the smaller rural centers not being able to start till that 3rd week of September. Figure skating is returning this year. They took last year off due to the pandemic. They're hoping to start the September 20th as well. And they're back to using their Monday, Wednesday. So last thing, the splash pad, I haven't been here in previous years, but this year it's used every day. It's amazing when the person is working the evening shift, how many people use it at night. Obviously, it's a nice activity, especially with how hot it's been, but it's used daily. We have set up with ABC when time comes for them to come and winterize it. So typically in years past, I know pretty much the week after school starts is 10 to when it gets shut down. Obviously with use, we can extend that or potentially keep that date. But that's one thing. That and the playground would be the 2 most used items on the community center activity. Skate park would be next. Basketball's here like hit or miss. The baseball diamond, obviously, there's no tournaments right now, but it's pretty much used by just minor ball and adult ball. So I'll ask Councillor or Mayor, do you have any questions?
Actually, no, we're pretty good on that, Seamus, but I do apologize. I meant to introduce you and welcome to the team also. So for those that may be tuned in, this is Seamus McDougall, and he's our lead hand for Parks, Recreation, and Facilities. So for now, I'm just going to refer back to Candace then regarding the community center and facilities opening procedures, if you wouldn't mind, Candace, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So just to tack on to Seamus's update, what staff has prepared for council is a brief outline as to the opening procedures of how we're going to start out of the gate, as Seamus mentioned, hoping for that very early September. So just need a document to put out to the user groups to kind of define how we're going to operate the community center under pandemic restrictions, as the province has put out that we will be remaining in stage 3 and not moving into the exit portion of the roadmap for an undetermined amount of time. So we're just planning on stage 3 for until we know no different. So the community center and facility opening procedures have been attached to the staff report. The main highlights would be 1 parent or guardian per player, as well as a maximum of 30 on the ice. But that does include coaches, trainers, etc. That is standard across the board. Seamus and I have been part of an email chain that's been going back and forth this week amongst all of the Peterborough County and the city of Peterborough facilities, and that 30 number seems to be the magic number that everyone is going with, and it's something that we could maintain with rotating through with the dressing rooms being open. One thing that has remained in place, physical distancing in the dressing rooms has to be maintained. So even though there's no requirement for physical distancing, once they get out onto the ice and on the bench, physical distancing has to remain in the dressing rooms, which of course keeps our numbers capped at 9. So in order for us to be able to rotate through those dressing rooms and to be able to ensure that we have time to disinfect, 30 is really all we can accommodate to be able to do that, or things are going to get really congested real quick. Obviously you can see the PPE, players to hopefully be able to come pre-dressed. That's because parents, when you look at the numbers, as soon as you allow a parent with every child in the dressing room, all of a sudden we lose that 9 people in the dressing room. It's just, we can't do it. So the parents are going to be pushed kind of up to where they need to view from, and because obviously we need to disinfect up there as well. Screenings in place, screening protocols obviously in place. Everyone has to be masked at all times. Once you leave the facility, you're gone. There's no in and out. The door will be locked once the rental starts. As far as food and drink goes, at this point in time, no outside food or drink unless it's, reusable coffee cup. People bring in their coffee cups, and 2 reasons. One, it's a recommendation from Peterborough Public Health, so we're not, because we clean up, and it would be great if all of those A&W packages and all the stuff that comes in will make it to the garbage can on their own, but they're not. And if we start allowing those things to happen, then we need more than the 10 minutes between the rental, and then we got to reduce the rental times, because we got to be cleaning up in the stands from the parents, as well as obviously increase of exposure to COVID based on handling foods and drink items that people have had in their possession. Washrooms will remain to be closed, so then they can ask for the key, so we know which ones need to be disinfected, because if they never ask for the key, then we know they weren't in there, so we don't have to waste time going and disinfecting that washroom. But they're open, they just need to ask for the key. The washrooms in the dressing rooms will be open, but the showers will not be. And that's kind of the highlights. We're going to be pushing everyone parking out front again. We will be barricading around so that, I know the players are coming out the side door, but they got to get out to the front to get into their parents' vehicles to avoid any mishaps similar to last year. Seamus is still with us, so I can take any questions, and then Mayor, I'll recraft the motion before you put it on the floor to incorporate Seamus's update as well.
Thank you. Any
You're
questions, Council, at this time? All right, Councillor Ward, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Candace, I was just wondering if you could answer, has there been any increased ventilation that we can use at the arena? Because we know that having more open air is a good thing for the arena surface, but I wasn't sure if that was going to affect like the ice as well. So I was just wondering if there was any opportunity to open different doors to have cross ventilation, even if it couldn't improve the heating system as such.
Yeah, that's something we can look into. We have not considered it probably for two reasons. One would be climate control for the ice. With it, we'll have to see what the temperature is outside come September. If we're still in this heat, probably we won't be able to leave the doors open just based on climate control for the ice plant. And two, being able to control the people utilizing those doors coming in and out. Those would be the only two things that I see. Obviously, ventilation is the reason why dressing rooms are still capped at physical distancing, because they're in there for a longer period of time, and the dressing rooms, they're concrete block walls. Like they're not, obviously there's not great ventilation. But it is something that I think Seamus and I'll chat about, and maybe not, we might not be able to do it out of the gate when the temperatures are still warm, but as the season progresses, maybe we can take a look and talk to Simcoe and see if there's something we can do.
A great question.
Just one more comment, if I may, Mayor.
Yes.
Seamus, I just wanted to say it was a really great report. I enjoyed reading it. It was very thorough, and I really enjoyed your first report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Walsh, you had your hand up, please.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, if I can. Again, Seamus, welcome aboard. Looking forward to working with you and your team. In regard to our report mentions that we've talked to user groups. Feedback been positive from user groups in terms of what's kind of been put together in terms of a step one approach. The part I do certainly like is Peterborough Public Health have really stepped up and helped kind of guide us through this process. Certainly sounds like you've been in conversation with all other municipalities. So has there been any feedback, either positive or negative, in terms of what's kind of being proposed today with step one approach?
I'll answer that through the mayor. So on that, we haven't really sent it out to them yet because we were waiting for our numbers to approve. Like, we don't want to send them out. We're hoping this, and then all of a sudden be like, well, don't plan on 30, having 25. But the biggest thing I know through public health is the facilities within Peterborough Public Health have been working together better this year, so that there's not, well, Norwood allows 30 and Peterborough allows 22. And that was the big thing last year, or this place allows spectators, this place doesn't. So the biggest thing I know is Otonabee and Durrow are doing one as well, one spectator like we are. Some of the other facilities are doing two, but they have the more room, right? Sure, we could allow 2 spectators, but now you're cleaning the whole stands and then having to put, rather than 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock rental, you're now 9:15, you're losing ice. So that's the one thing. I don't foresee any of them having a problem with these, because pretty much all the rinks have the same rules. Really, the only difference is based off room 1 spectator to 2. I know too, the one thing we thought about that after talking to a person last night, other rinks have it. During tryouts, we're setting aside a designated area for evaluators so that they're away from the parents, so that you're not evaluating players talking about someone and a parent going, well, that's my kid. So that's one thing we've thought about as well. And just making sure that with the access to the dressing rooms, it's going to be in and out clean. But to answer your question again, I don't foresee any of them having problems, right? All teams are allowed 1 spectator. Hopefully when we reach the exit stage, it will be back to 2, but I don't foresee any of them having a problem with those.
Okay, no, that's fair. And I think, I know I had kind of just reached out to minor hockey to get a sense when it comes to tryouts, is the 30 limit going to work? And certainly looks like from their numbers, I think there's only one age group right now. It's at 28 kids that, they're just going to have to work a plan to make it work with 30 people total on the ice. So that makes sense. And I guess my other quick question is, so this will certainly work great for tryouts. When it comes to game scheduling, with the new sort of way that OMHA is moving forward, any sense, Seamus, when games would even start to be considered now with a delayed start the way it is?
So on that, typically, so now with the trial, what they brought in this year is after you pick your team, you have to have at least 7 days of development. So
Okay.
right away, you're probably not starting before Thanksgiving. But
Okay.
I know from the Peterborough Public Health, that's the big thing is all the facilities are concerned with, well, OMHA and OHF is wanting return to normal games, but how do you do that when your team has 15, my team has 15, well, there's the 30. Because right now, we're under the assumption, again, Peterborough Public Health's clarifying this, but right now, all the facilities are under the assumption that included in that 30 is your refs and coaches. So right now, pretty much, Barry, if I were to play you in an exhibition game, you're pretty much allowed to take 10 skaters and a goalie because you
Yeah.
add 2 coaches
Yeah.
per team, 2 refs, a timekeeper, there's 29. So that's, I know, the one thing that there was an email out today from Brad from Peterborough that they're trying to kind of fight it or find out for sure. Because it's like, how are you allowing these teams to pick 15, 17 players? But after Thanksgiving, you're playing a game, and now are you having to sit kids? Or you can't play a game because there's only 30 on the ice?
Okay, fair enough. Work in progress, right?
And to touch on your other question, I know I talked to Todd this morning. In the event that, say, the one age group has like 40 kids, they would simply just get a second hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
During tryouts.
Yep, it can work. Okay, thank you. That's great.
Deputy Mayor Burt. There you go.
Thank you through you, Mayor. Thank you, Candace and Seamus for the reports. Barry took my questions about feedback and also the comment about finally it's good to have some uniform guidelines across the county. But I do have one more question. And I guess you'd have to get your crystal ball out, Candace and Seamus, for this. Any anticipation of public skating with limited numbers this winter? Has there been any talk, any guidelines through public health about that? Obviously, you know, you have to limit numbers, but I'm just curious if there's been any inkling of that and how it would move forward if that was the case.
Seamus, do you want me to answer that?
I can take that if you want.
Okay, sure, you go.
So on that, there hasn't been any mention. The biggest concern again was all the user groups have to submit a safety plan.
Right.
So it would be so if I'm doing it, I submit a safety plan, but how do I know 5 people are showing up or 25? So really, I guess the only way to do that would be is if one person took charge right now and got 20 people that are committed to coming, they submit the safety plan, provide the names, those 20 people show up, go on it. But it would be a lot tougher if it's just, because what happens if 31 people show up, right? You're telling that 31st person, sorry, but you can't go on the ice.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Nailed it.
Very good.
Yeah. Any other questions from council?
You're all
Okay,
right.
excellent. Excellent job, Seamus. You've done really well today. Thank you. So Candace, you're going to help us with this motion then for our 6th report.
Yes, thank you. That the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts this report regarding the second quarter update for recreation parks and facilities and the community center and facility opening procedure step 1 for information. And further that the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood approves the community center and facility opening procedure step 1 as presented.
Councillor Archer, seconded by Deputy Mayor Burt. Any more discussion? None? All in favor then, please. And that's carried. Well, thank you very much. And thank you, Seamus. Welcome to the team. And looking forward to many more of your reports coming forward in the near future. Okay, R7 then would be Candace White, our CAO Clerk Treasurer again, and this report is regarding Councillor Compensation Review RFP results.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So this report is just presenting council with an opportunity that has presented itself. It was not originally part of the 2021 plan, but Peterborough County put out a call asking for if lower tier municipalities wanted to take part, just to see if there would be any savings to be had by those municipalities that would be looking to redo the remuneration bylaw. Some municipalities are just doing council only. Some of them are undertaking a similar review that we just done for our salary bands and doing the whole staffing complement as well. Some are doing union, some are doing non-union. So each municipality is kind of taking their own approach with it. Obviously, since we just completed a market salary review and our pay equity analysis and have our new salary bands, the only really item that is left outstanding to address in 2022 is the council remuneration bylaw. So what I have done is I've just put together the information from the RFP from Peterborough County. You can see that the cost for them to go out and submit a proposal to council is about $9,600. What that would include, obviously, as you can see in the package, that they would go out and do an assessment of comparator municipalities, as well as put together a presentation to council and a recommendation as to what they see for remuneration. Quite similar, I guess, to what staff proposed to you in 2019 to take on step one. We all knew that the approach taken by council at that time was step one of a multi-stepped approach in order to get remuneration to where it needs to be for councillors in a municipality of our size. You can see very seldom do you ever see a recommendation come forward. Traditionally, staff does recommend one way or another, but I do truly feel this is a councillor decision as staff. If you would prefer for us to continue on in 2022 and complete it in a similar fashion as we did in 2019 and take it on and present something to council in 2022, by all means, it'll be included in my work plan for 2022. If you choose to move forward with Gallagher and Associates, Gallagher, anyway, then by all means, I will do that and award it and work with them on the project. So I will take any questions and answer them the best I can, Mayor.
Okay, any questions or comments at this time? Deputy Mayor Burt, please.
Hi, thank you. And through you, Mayor, I'll get the ball rolling because I'm sure there'll be a little bit of discussion here. Yeah, certainly what staff did at the beginning of our term was very helpful, and we know we're taking steps forward. I guess my question to you, Candace, is given the scope of work that Gallagher will be doing versus the scope of work that staff would be doing, obviously there'd be savings to do in-house, but there's, time is money. There's still a cost to staff and reporting and to do that. So I guess that's my question, is a cost analysis in-house versus out of house. But I will make another comment that certainly we've made a decision this term of council going forward, and regardless of what we decide going forward in 2022, will in my opinion, should continue. This will be much more helpful going forward in the next term of council. So having something in place the end of 2022 for the next 4 years, I think will be helpful, whether it's done by our staff or Gallagher. So that's, I guess, the question, and then the comment to get the discussion rolling.
Anyone else at this time? I have some comments if you want to.
Did you want
Okay,
me to answer
Councillor
your
Ward.
question?
Through you,
Sorry,
Mayor.
Candace, go ahead.
Did you want me to answer the deputy mayor's question?
Yeah,
Or
sorry.
did you want me to? Okay.
Well, I wasn't sure it was a complete question, to be honest with you, or she wanted to just get the discussion
It
going.
was two parts, question and comment. So yes, if Candace could answer the question.
Thanks.
Okay. So yes, a consultant would cost more, even when a cost comparator analysis, it would be more expensive to have a consulting firm complete the scope of work than in-house. I would say for township staff to complete it based on an assumption of the amount of hours it would take me to put into it, you're probably looking at with 40% of the cost, I would suspect, to be able to achieve it in-house. My only other comment on the deputy mayor's comment would be that timing. I don't suspect that Gallagher would complete this scope of work for this price. when the new council was sworn in next December. The price is not going to be guaranteed for that length of time. So
Okay.
it would be this council adopting the bylaw that would be in place, and that bylaw would be in place when the new council took over. So
Gotcha.
the new council wouldn't be addressing remuneration.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor War, I think I've seen your hand.
Yes, through you, Mayor. I know that when we had the discussion, it was a difficult one. It was a difficult one to address. I'm wondering, having a third party do the study, it might be a little bit more impartial and a little bit easier on everyone, because it takes that decision out of, it comes back with a report. You don't think so? But I see you shaking your head, Mayor. But anyways, that's just my comment that, sometimes that a third party does come back with a different perspective.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The only reason I shook my head is because we still have to make a decision in the long run with what the report says.
Oh, no, I realize that.
Yeah.
Whatever the report comes back is, house.
Candace, you had your hand there.
I agree. I think to comment on the comment from my perspective, from a level of comfortability, to be making recommendation on the remuneration for the people you report to. From my perspective, when it is solely myself putting together the data on my own, I can do the market analysis. I'm obviously capable of completing the exercise and putting forward a fair and equitable proposal that I would stand behind and feel comfortable with. That being said, a third party does create that level of comfortability and sort of remove the relationship. You have that extra layer there. So from Councillor War's perspective, I'm just trying to help you guys through the decision making here. But yes, it does create a level of comfortability. So as of now, we have, yes, I can do it cheaper, but a third party consultant would add a layer of comfortability, but the timing with Gallagher wouldn't be what council originally planned. So that's kind of where we stand so far.
Anyone else at this time?
I know it's kind of a crazy thing through you, Mayor, but if you look at what we'd be paying them to do it, and we've already took step one on our own, we could almost go to step two we had talked about, and we wouldn't be having to get a report from them. Because what do we have in place to go up next year, or the enumeration?
Yes, so this bylaw would be determined after that. So this would be determining what would happen in 2023, 2024, 2025, probably a 4-year period, starting in 2023. Next year's is already in place.
That's what I thought.
Yes. It wouldn't, I would suspect it wouldn't be touched. You would just move to the next step that you've already predetermined in 2019.
So we would be predetermined the wages of, who knows, maybe even the new council, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Questions?
Ultimately, we can put out to try to help you. Essentially, 2022 remuneration has been decided by council. So if you want to wait till after the municipal election, after the lame duck period and the new council is sworn in, then we can put it on the, it's going to have to be one of the first items they address. You guys have been in that situation, and being one of the very first items that you address as a council is not overly comfortable. If anything, even if it's just a recommendation for me, my recommendation would be to have the remuneration out to at least 2023, whether it's myself completing it or someone else, and you just do 1 year, maybe 2 years, and let the new council, whomever that may be, come into play, and then be able to make that decision at that point in time, whether it's myself completing it or a consultant.
Deputy Mayor Burt?
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't want a new council coming in and having to do that right away. So it's a decision, in my opinion, that we have to make, regardless of what way we go. And it's never an easy decision to make. I am leaning towards the consultant. I know it's $9,600, just because of that comfort level for staff, creating that dividing line, and that even though it's all transparent, I think it's just the perception from the public that perhaps makes that line a little bit clearer. Yeah, so that is kind of where I'm leaning to. I'd kind of like some feedback from everyone else, but that is where I'm leaning.
Councillor Walsh, please.
That's for you, Mayor, and I would be supportive of what Deputy Mayor Burt is saying. Is yes, not saying that what Candace and her team put together last time wasn't, well done, and it was very informative to make that decision. But it would just, again, from another level of transparency, having an outside consultant do it. I'm also aligned to the idea that I really wouldn't want to set the remuneration for the next 4 years of new council. It would be nice to still have that study done, and maybe we only adopt year 1, year 2 into the new council term, and let new council decide where they want to take it up after that. But I know it is $9,665 we're spending, but on the other hand, we're also freeing up staff to do other projects, and just bringing in just an outside look versus our own eyes looking at it, I think is just another layer of transparency.
Anyone else? Councillor Archer?
Yes, through you, Mayor. I guess if you look at it, the big picture, I have to support Lori on the 2, because we're really only talking, like Candace has said, it would be cost 40% if we did it in-house. So you're really only looking at 60% of it, which would be $5,000. If you look at it, the extra would be costing us roughly to do it.
And that cost would be spread out technically over the term of the bylaw, right? So, essentially, if you're setting a plan in place, it's going to be 3 years, and you could take that 5,000 divided over the 3 years of that bylaws in place. Yeah.
Not very much money if you look at it that way.
No,
No.
about $1,700 a
And
year.
it is outside. We haven't got.
Okay, so I just have a couple comments and maybe a question too, just to clarify that one. So when we do spend, say, the extra $5,000, then because it's going to cost us with staff to do the job, when we do the remuneration for each councillor, would we even hit $5,000 if we were to do raises up, or is it like, where I'm coming from on that? Like, it's like here we're spending $5,000, but when we get remunerated for what our wages are, will we even come to $5,000 in the next 2 years? That's my question.
Because I haven't completed the study.
Yeah. No, but I just, you know where I'm coming from on that. Like,
I don't know. That is ultimately, you could be paying more than what you're receiving. That is obviously something that it's a factor that you need to take into consideration. But based on where you guys were in the scale, when you look at it, it's $5,000 spread out amongst 5 positions. I would suspect that you're going to see that it would be over the course of the term of the bylaw.
Yeah, of course, it would be in time. Yeah, that's right. But the other thought is, I know when a consultant's going to come back. I mean, we already know historically that this township with our council has paid the less of it everybody around us in Peterborough County, and even in some of the neighboring counties. I mean, we are very low on the pay scale, and I'm fine with that too. But when the consultant comes back and says, well, if you want to just go with statistics, I believe the mayor next door to us here is about $36,000. So I mean, that's almost double what I make as a mayor now. So I just, it just like when it comes back, it's not going to be an easy decision no matter how we look at it. And when a consultant says, well, you're so grossly underpaid because of what's happening around you, it's still going to be a tough decision for us. And then where does that end us up at? And then when we say in the long run, well, no, I only want $1,000 more for the mayor, $800 for the deputy mayor, $600 for the councillors, and we make our own decision anyway. But then we've spent $10,000 of taxpayers' money to make our own decision. So that's just where I'm coming at. Like, we already know the answer out there that we're underpaid, basically, as far as the rest of the county's concerned. But it's a tough decision no matter how you look at it. But I'm just trying to think of it from the other side too. Because when Candace came back the first time with that study, it was well done. And she did pin us against a whole bunch of other areas out there and different counselors for what we were being paid for. But I mean,
ultimately, what's going to have to happen is we're going to have to take the consultant's report and probably the mayor's not wrong. And likely then I'm going to have to draft a bylaw that you guys are actually going to be comfortable adopting. And put that report into a staff report that proposes something that you guys are comfortable with, because he's right. It's going to come back probably in a format that you're not going to be comfortable with out of the gate.
Lori, sorry.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think we all know where we're sitting, but it's a decision that I think this council should make and not leave it to the next council. It's hard to say. None of us may be sitting around this table other than staff. I hope staff are still here. We really don't know. I think it's important to have that study, have those numbers, and have that proposal, I guess, if you will, in front of the next set of 5 eyes around the table. And we can certainly make that decision for the first year or two, and then it's up to them to go from there. But I know exactly where you're coming from. We know what those numbers are going to look like. None of us are in this position for the money. We know that. But at the same time, we're a very busy municipality. And are we being fair to I guess not ourselves, but other people that may come in? So I am still leaning towards that idea of getting the consultant to come in and do it. I can't believe I'm saying that, because I usually, really put my back up against a lot of consultants when staff can do it. But I really do think, from the perspective of staff and having that dividing line between staff and us, it's important for the perspective from the public. So yeah, I can see all sides, and I know exactly where you're coming from, Mayor. And but I am still leaning that way.
That's fine. Candace, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that council's aware. So it isn't just honorariums that they look at. They look at the amount of time invested by the counselor. So they look at our number of meetings a year. They look at the committees and boards that certain positions are appointed to, and our policies surrounding that. And obviously there is great differences from municipality to municipality in that regard. They look at cell phones, laptops. Some municipalities offer benefit packages to their counselors. So it is a full, I guess, compensation approach versus just the honorarium. And that honorarium, they will drill down and see exactly where that lands, and whether they try to compare apples to apples for the amount of time each counselor puts in on a monthly basis versus the honorarium, given all of those types of things come into play. So it's really compensation as a whole.
Okay. Well, I think that's lots of discussion. So we have possibly a motion on the floor then. I'd have the deputy mayor speak up if that's the case. I guess the motion could be, and I can help, is accept the report and authorize the review for the amount of 9665 plus HST.
That sounds pretty much what I was going to say, Mayor. I think, yeah, I will make that motion to move forward with that recommendation. We'll
Okay.
see where it lands.
Do we have a seconder on that then? Okay, Councillor Walsh. Any other discussion on the motion?
Just
Go ahead.
and again, just, I know we're kind of going around in circles on this, but I think what it does is, I'm like Deputy Mayor Burt, it provides another level of looking at the whole compensation package. It's from a transparency standpoint, that's great. Yes, it will probably end up coming with a staff report to, to massage it and modify it. But it then also gives the new councillor going into the next term lots of background between staff report and the consultant to decide where they want to take it for the next number of years. So I think it provides lots of information for them.
No problem. Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? Councillor Archer, please.
My question, I just had one question. When, if we go ahead with this, when will it be done by then? What was the date on that? I forgot. Like, is it to be done by the study?
Well, that'll be determined once I start talking to them. We can set the date ourselves.
So we might get it within 3 to 6 months type thing?
Yeah, I doubt it'll be this year.
So, okay.
I think it'll be first quarter of 2022.
I just didn't want it to end up in the next fall, and then.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, fair enough. But no, I think first quarter, it'll be early in 2022, if not late 2021.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, then we have a motion on the floor, duly seconded. All in favor then, please. Okay, that's carried. There was a bit of a delay there. All right, thank you.
We're going to be damned if we do and damned if we don't here anyway, so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Candace, for that one. So R8 now then, Candace White, our CAO Clerk Treasurer, and this report is regarding the Canada Community Revitalization Fund. Candace, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is a good news story. So I touched base on this with council at our meeting in July to let you know that I had come across this fund and quickly put in an application, and we quickly got word that we were successful, and we just as quickly have to build the project. So it is a quick turnaround. So what it is an expansion or a rehabilitation to the existing skateboard park. It will be turning it into what I would consider to be an all-wheels park for accessibility for all different talents, abilities, interests, whether that's scooters, whether that's BMX bikes, whether that's skateboards. It's going to be an extensive, obviously you can tell by the dollar figure, it's going to be an extensive rehabilitation. We do have a draft design, and I will be having a stakeholder meeting with the local youth that were heavily involved back in 2017 and 2018 in spearheading this. I want to circle back to them and have a conversation with them to ensure I am not a skateboarder, so I'm not going to pretend to be. And I know some of the terminology learned back at those public information centers definitely enlightened me. So I just want to ensure that the needs and wants and desires when we're looking at getting this fortunate grant, that we're getting the youth of our community exactly what it is they want for certain types of equipment and whatnot on the pad itself. The contribution agreement did come in yesterday. It is huge. So I didn't send out an addendum. I do have the agreement that the mayor and I would sign. We are going to include it on the next council agenda with the bylaw to enter into the agreement, but the federal government is looking for the motion today, as well as guaranteeing that we will be able to fund our portion of the project. And obviously it's timed well with seeing our financial statements today. Obviously council is well aware that we can, it's in the coffers to be able to fund a project such as this. And it has been identified multiple times, master rec plan, recreation survey, time and time again. and based on the expansion to the community center next year. So I guess this is the part of the village that's going to be tore apart next year. And 2022 is going to be the community center for the fitness club expansion, as well as this new all wheels park. So I think it's going to be the place to be after 2022, that's for sure. But I'll take any questions from council.
Yeah, thanks for that report. It's a great news story. Council, any questions, comments? Councillor Ward, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Candace, would this be the same draft plan, the blueprints that were presented in 2018, or you're going to redo them? So,
yeah, so another draft has been prepared since the 2017 park, and it's substantial. It's probably 3 times the size of the one that was presented. So the youth are going to be quite surprised. And with the $483,000 contribution from the federal government, you know, we're looking at probably, they want a bowl so bad, and they want a concrete bowl. So I think there's going to be some hybrid model. So there's going to be concrete, but there's also going to be some pieces of equipment that are fastened to the concrete that aren't built out of concrete. And so I think it's going to be really exciting. They are going to be blown away because they are not seeing this coming at all, because they were feeling like they were getting a better skateboard park, but based on this contribution, the township's portion of $160,000 is $40,000 less than what it would have been to build the original one back in 2017. That's a third of the size. So
that's great.
It's amazing.
Makes them.
Deputy Mayor Burt. Oh, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
No, that was just my comment that, you know, a lot of young people in the community worked hard to really spearhead this, and they will be extremely excited. Some of them may be adults by now, but that's okay. If they're skateboarders, they'll keep going. But yeah, that's great news, and thank you for getting this done so quickly.
Any other comments from council? Okay, good news report. So for R8, then the motion would be to accept the report for information, and then further to have council authorize myself, the mayor, and the clerk to enter into this agreement between the FedDef agency and our township, Asphodel-Norwood, for the rehabilitation of our skateboard park, and further approve us to pull from reserves $161,057 to fund to the township portion. Motion by Councillor Archer, seconded by Councillor Walsh. And all in favor? Okay, thank you. That's carried. And I will shred the rail to make my way down to sign that.
That's one of the terms. That's, of course you know that.
Looking forward to that.
I still don't know what that means, but anyway.
Good, eh? All right, so that's been carried. So now we're on to R9 then. Candace White, no introduction needed, regarding our management action list from council, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep it brief. You have the report in front of you. Obviously, based on today, you are going to see the merger agreement for Stockdale added probably in the last meeting in September. And you're going to see the contribution agreement and bylaw coming forward to the 14th of September. Other than that, I will leave kind of the rest as is until we have our management team meeting tomorrow. You may see some things shuffled, but all in all, I don't think there's any surprises here.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council? Any comments? Seeing none, then I'm looking for a motion to accept as presented then, please. Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Archer. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. No correspondence for action. So we're on to councillor liaison reports. Anyone have anything to come forward at this time? Deputy Mayor Burt, please.
Just to let council know, there was a library strategic planning meeting last Wednesday night. It was in person following all the COVID protocols and distancing and number restrictions. And it was an excellent brainstorming opportunity to really bring together some of the survey results and look at 4 areas of programming, services and facilities and other, and see where we can move forward. So certainly the mayor could echo those comments. It was a very, very good session, very productive, and looking forward to another one in September, I believe.
Anyone else? All right. I had an advisory committee meeting yesterday at 11 a.m. with Ontario Hydro. So they've had their integration since June the 1st for Ontario Hydro for the rest of basically Peterborough County that they took over, Selwyn, Norwood, and so on. So they've taken over 39,000 customers. They've added 62 employees. They've taken on 2,500 kilometers of hydro lines and approximately 14,822 assets to their inventory, which is a lot, which is hydro poles and towers and one thing after another. The one thing that I want to bring forward was the investments that they're giving back to the area. And one is it's 75,000 total, but it's gone to the Kawartha Food Share as well as to kids sport. And they've also said that next year they're going to do an additional 75,000 in 2022 for investment opportunities. So that's our opportunity to come forward to actually give them something that they may be able to put their money towards other than what they've done now. So that's basically it for us for the Hydro One. Anyone else? Okay, that's good. We're on to CAO.
Mayor?
Yes, sorry.
Sorry, Mayor, if I can't, just a quick clarify. So the 75K that they donated this year, Kawartha Food Share, because I saw that. When it comes to the kids sport, what kids sport did they invest in? Do you know?
No, I didn't
Like, was
ask
it a
that
number
question.
of groups?
When I first mentioned it, Andy Mitchell, the mayor of Selwyn, jumped on it too, because I said that minor sports could use a lot of extra money going forward and whatever. And I'm not sure if when they say, these people are a lot from the big city there. So when they say kids sports, it may involve a lot, but I'm sorry I didn't clarify that at the time as to what it was.
Okay, just be interesting to know whether it was a number of different organizations or one organization. And if we were to consider, putting something in next year, just kind of nice to know where their head is at in terms of what they're looking at.
Sure, that might be something that we may be able to follow up on with our contact Annie, and Candace may be able to get back to us on something like that in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions on the reports? Nothing? Okay, CAO clerk's treasurer's list then, please, Candace.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep it brief. The council chamber renovations are complete. Staff have moved into the offices into the back. If you'd like to come in and take a tour in September, by all means, reach out to me and you can pop in and see it. It's great. The offices are spacious. The boardroom is going to be great. We're still transitioning, so things are a bit messy, but people are moving into their new spaces, and it's great to be separated and have a appropriate home for all staff, which is great. I did receive an update on the Westwood Bridge just prior to today's meeting. The old structure is completely removed, which I'm sure most of you are aware. Environmental controls are in place and are performing as designed. They are expecting completion at the end of October. Form work for abutments and center pier are commencing. Westwood residents have been great and supportive of the ongoing activities. So things are going well there. There is multiple initiatives out from the township. Strategic plan survey is out. The 2022 budget survey is out. Advertising of our township app. Hopefully for those of you that have mobile apps, you've been so kind as to download it. It's fantastic. We are receiving a lot of positive feedback in regards to that tool, as well as the e-billing contest, really pushing that out. And seems to be feedback from the tax department is that it's going, the last week have been going well. So those 4 initiatives are ongoing and will continue on into September to make sure that we capture residents that aren't out on vacation. And once you get back into that back to school, sometimes you start to pay a bit more attention to those types of things that are happening locally and at home. So we'll do a push out through the schools of those initiatives to make sure that we can catch that September rush. Also, hopefully today you guys have been enjoying the new staff report format that has been completely revamped. It's been a long time coming. So hopefully you are enjoying that and don't have any issues with how we're laying things out now. And that's it, Mayor, for me.
Good, thanks. Any questions? I have a question. When you talked about the where the planning department is now, so they have their own door there with the side ramp. No, I was going to say, is that going to stay locked and then everybody has to still come through the front door? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I would suggest that strongly myself too. So thanks.
Yeah, so that actually isn't the plan. So that door that comes into council chambers goes into the boardroom.
Oh,
So that's the boardroom. So when staff meets with outside, whether it's engineers, outside residents or whatever, so now they don't have to come all through the office, in through everyone's workspace to go to the boardroom. They can just come in that door, straight in, boardroom, have the meeting with staff, back out.
Yeah.
Anybody that's conducting regular business, paying taxes, whatever it may be, then you still have to come through the main office. So.
Okay, great. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's the chambers. You'll be amazed that it's the same space. It's kind of crazy. It turned out really well. It's really bright. There's lots of windows in there, so the offices are really bright. We're utilizing it. We're still working on your new council chamber tables, so we're working diligently behind the scenes to get those in place for a end of September meeting in person, hopefully. So I have a feeling that that's going to land right when the town hall floor is being replaced now. So based on the message I got today, so it may not be then, but.
Right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
On to general business now then. Anyone have anything under general business? Okay, I'm just waiting for a delay. I see no hands then. All right, so then we're going to move into a closed session then. So I need a motion then to suspend our regular council meeting to enter into a closed session. Our closed session will be at 3:42. And to have this, it'll be a discussion of one item regarding litigation and potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board in accordance with Section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001. So motioned by Deputy Mayor Burt, seconded by Councillor Archer, all in favor.